What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, November 5th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 14:08 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Eastern Europe, from Russia, and from the Caribbean. I want to start with Russia. We have some very, very concerning news coming out of Russia. So, Putin yesterday signed a law introducing year-round military conscription and allowing the call-up of reservists during peacetime. The new system, which replaces the current two annual draft periods with a permanent recruitment process, will come into force on January the 1st. So if you guys are not aware, as of right now, Russia has two draft periods, once in the spring, once in the fall, and they're going to replace that starting 2026 with year-round drafting, okay? So that is clearly a sign that Russia is preparing for some kind of big war with NATO and or the US. This is very, very concerning. And just the other day, we had breaking news that Russia has accelerated production of some of their armored vehicles, their BTRs. They started cranking out 500 to 700 BTRs per month, basically going back to a Soviet era mass production routine for their BTRs. So that is another sign that Russia's preparing for something. Also, major breaking news from Putin. Apparently, he ordered officials to propose options for potentially preparing Russia to resume nuclear tests. And so Putin said that earlier today. He's telling his officials, his experts, to look at different options for nuclear testing, okay, to resume it. And this is obviously reaction to what Trump said a couple of days ago, when Trump said that the U.S. is going to start doing nuclear tests. And speaking of nuclear tests, last night the U.S. launched a Minuteman III ICBM, and I'm going to have to do a follow-up on that because I haven't heard many details come out yet about the launch. But the thing to look for is how many unarmed test vehicles they used, or test warheads, dummy warheads basically. Because if they launched just one, that means that there's no indication that the U.S. is up-arming its missiles. But if they launch three, that means that the U.S. has or is in the process of up-arming or re-arming the Minuteman III ICBMs after the START treaty expired last year, okay? But Putin confirmed that Moscow has no intention of withdrawing from the nuclear test ban treaty, explaining that his country has warned of taking retaliatory measures if some countries decide to conduct nuclear tests. So he's clearly talking about Trump, okay? Also today, Russia's defense minister Belousov said in a briefing with Putin that the U.S. has conducted drills in October simulating a preemptive nuclear missile strike against Russia. He specifically mentioned the Dark Eagle system, which is, I believe, the U.S. Army's hypersonic missile. I can't remember which one that was, but the Russian defense minister saying that the U.S. conducted nuclear strike drills in October simulating a nuclear strike on Russia. And Putin said yesterday that the development of the Burevestnik and the Poseidon are historically significant, and that no country has ever had a missile with the same range as the Burevestnik. So if you don't remember what those are, the Burevestnik was the nuclear-powered cruise missile that they tested like a week and a half ago, and the Poseidon is the torpedo that's nuclear powered and nuclear armed with a massive nuclear warhead. And Alexei Zuralov, the first deputy chairman of the State Defense Committee of Russia, said that Russia is already supplying weapons to Venezuela and sees no obstacles to transferring the new Oreshnik IRBM. He said Russia is actually one of Venezuela's key military technical partners. We supply the country with nearly the entire range of weapons, from small arms to aviation. The details and volumes of deliveries are classified, so the Americans might be in for a surprise. I see no obstacles to providing our friendly nation with new systems such as the Oreshnik or the well-proven Caliber missiles. No international commitments restrict Russia in this regard. Okay, so Russia's basically saying, look, we're going to give Venezuela everything, including Oreshniks and Caliber missiles. Guys, the Oreshniks are basically a two-stage ICBM, so they can go out to like 4,000 miles, okay? So they can hit all of North America from Venezuela with these Oreshniks. And the Caliber missiles are actually part of the Club K system. So if you don't know what the Club K system is, those are the missiles that can be hidden inside of shipping containers. So this is very, very concerning, guys. Russia is going to arm Venezuela to the teeth in order to fight against the U.S. to weaken us, just like we were arming Ukraine to weaken Russia, okay? And we're hearing that the Trump administration is weighing military options to oust Maduro, including airstrikes, special forces raids, and seizing oil fields. Legal guidance is being drafted to justify action without congressional approval. This was reported by the New York Times. Also, the New York Times reported that one approach envisions the U.S. sending special operations forces such as the Army's Delta Force or the Navy's SEAL Team 6 to try to capture or kill Maduro. Okay, that's what the New York Times reported, citing their sources. Okay, so the Trump administration is considering using SEALs and Delta Force to capture or kill Maduro. Absolutely insane. And what you're looking at here is a new picture of the Gerald Ford. This picture was taken early yesterday as it was transiting through the Strait of Gibraltar, and this is the aircraft carrier that's going to the Caribbean, and it's going to participate in this campaign against Maduro. You can see the deck there is just loaded with fighter jets. If you want to take a screenshot, you can do that right now and try to count how many fighter jets you think are on this aircraft carrier and put it in the comments. It looks to be about 50 fighter jets, maybe more. They can carry at least 75 aircraft on this thing. So this thing is going to take probably another 4 to 5 days to reach the Caribbean. It's still a couple thousand miles away, and their top speed is 35 miles an hour. So hopefully by this weekend, it'll be in position. All right. Well, I don't know about hopefully, but it looks like it's going to be in position by this weekend. And also, we have new satellite imagery of the Roosevelt Roads airfield. This is a U.S. military airfield in Puerto Rico, and you can see a bunch of different planes here. It looks like C-17s, a KC-130, and a bunch of F-35s here. This picture was taken by Satellogic satellite company. Okay, this is another indication that the U.S. is gearing up for a major confrontation with Venezuela. And over the weekend, I did a simple tally of all of the guided missile warships that the U.S. has in the region or is sending to the region, and we counted the number of missile cells that they have. Between all of the warships and subs, we counted 1,100 launch cells. Okay, so in one volley, the U.S. can launch up to 1,100 missiles from all the ships that are in the Caribbean at Venezuela. Okay, now they're not going to be fully loaded with offensive missiles. They're probably going to be like half defensive. and half offensive, but that's still a massive amount of firepower that you simply don't need if you're going after just cartels in the jungle, okay? And this afternoon, we had a U.S. nuke sniffer plane that was flying with its transponder turned off, and it just landed at Lincoln, Nebraska. And we also have a presidential doomsday plane that just took off from Offutt Air Base. And this video was sponsored by Just In Case Holsters. Guys, you need to get yourself a high quality holster for your personal defense weapon. And the company I recommend for high quality leather holsters is Just In Case Holsters. Now, these holsters are made in the USA by a veteran. And the holster that I really love for carrying a firearm in the woods is the Kodiak chest holster. I have one of these for my .357 Magnum, and the leather is really thick, really heavy duty, really beautiful, holds the firearm nicely, and you can draw the weapon very quickly, which is important in a personal defense situation. Now, he has a whole variety of holsters, not just these open carry chest holsters, but if you want to browse around their website, use the link in the description. It's justincaseholsters.com, and I have a special promo code that's going to give you 10% off of all of their products on their website, and the promo code is NYPrepper, and that's also in the description. So justincaseholsters.com. Use the promo code NYPrepper to get 10% off of any leather products on their website. And also, we had this U-2 spy plane fly from Beale Air Force Base in California all the way to Breeze Norton in the UK. This is pretty interesting. So we have now moved a stealth spy plane to the European theater, probably to monitor Russia. They're probably going to fly over Russian airspace with this thing. That's what the U-2 was designed for, okay? And interestingly, yesterday in my video update, I reported that there's this NOTAM up for the area around Beale through March the 8th. For the next 5 months, they have a NOTAM, or actually a temporary flight restriction, TFR, for Beale Air Force Base, the area around Beale Air Force Base. If you're a pilot, you need to have a special discrete code that you have to squawk when you're flying through the temporary flight restriction area, and they say the reasons is due to a special security situation. So I don't know if they're going to be doing a large number of U-2 spy plane patrols out of Beale over the next few months, or if they're going to be launching the SR-72, but that is pretty interesting. And yesterday, the airspace of Belgium was completely shut down after multiple drones were reported by law enforcement and various government agencies in Belgium. And this came just 2 days after drones were spotted over the Klein Brogel Air Base in Belgium on Saturday and Sunday, which houses US B-52 or B-61 nuclear gravity bombs. Okay, so something's going on over there in Belgium. And Poland charged 2 Russian citizens with spying for Russia's FSB. The couple, who had refugee status, allegedly collected intelligence on Polish foreign ministry officials, academic exchange programs, and Russian opposition figures. The couple is also accused of helping send a parcel bomb containing nitroglycerin and military-grade detonators via courier. Potential sentences ranging from 8 years to life in prison. Wow. So, very serious situation there with the Russian spies in Poland. And the Russian press secretary, Dmitry Peskov, warned Serbia about providing weapons to Ukraine. He said Russia would not like to see Serbian-made ammunition used against Russian soldiers. So if you're not aware, Serbia has actually been sending Ukraine some ammunition over the last couple of years. And Russia has now reconfigured their glide bombs to be capable of striking targets up to 200 kilometers deep into Ukraine. Apparently, they're using new turbojet-powered guidance kits on their glide bombs. Okay, so these are similar to like the JDAMs and those kits that can be fitted to our dummy bombs that help them to basically become smart bombs that can travel longer distances and hit targets with precision. So this is very concerning because Russia can easily mass produce these glide bombs. Glide bombs are cheap to produce, much cheaper than cruise missiles, okay? And they're still very damaging and very accurate. And so Russia can mass produce these, and now they can strike 160 miles into Ukraine with them. That is very concerning. And 160 miles would allow Russia to launch straight at the capital, Kyiv, with these glide bombs while their jets are still in Russian airspace. And the Transportation Interim Secretary Sean Duffy warned yesterday that if the government shutdown lasts another week, the U.S. may face mass chaos with major flight delays and cancellations, and some airspace could be closed for safety. Now, interestingly, this morning, Trump got rid of Sean Duffy after he said that yesterday. He was supposed to just be the interim secretary, but now that he appointed a permanent secretary. But I find it funny that the first thing Trump did this morning was get rid of him after he said that. He was just stating the truth. It's true that this government shutdown will potentially cause flight delays, cancellations, airspace closures. Okay, so we're heading into the holiday season, and basically the worst time to have a situation like this when everybody's traveling. It's the busiest travel season of the year, okay, over the next 2 months. So he's not wrong, okay? And my suspicion is that this is all being orchestrated by the New World Order, by the elites. They want this division in our country. They want us to blame each other. Oh, it's the Republicans' fault. No, it's the Democrats' fault. Oh, it's Trump's fault. Oh, it's this, and just they want us to fight each other, okay, and destroy us from within. And what better way to do that than to shut down the government right before the holidays, take people's food benefits away right before the holidays, all right? So we could be in for some crazy next few weeks, okay? And Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum dismissed a report that the U.S. is planning an anti-cartel mission inside of Mexico, saying no such operation will occur and Mexico does not agree to it, okay? And China will suspend their 24% additional tariff on U.S. goods for 1 year, but will retain a 10% levy, the Chinese State Council's Tariff Commission said following last week's meeting between Xi Jinping and Trump. And the U.S. struck another vessel, supposed drug trafficking vessel, in the Eastern Pacific yesterday. And South Korea's intelligence service says North Korea is preparing for a potential meeting between Kim Jong-un and Trump. They also said that North Korea is sending 10,000 troops to Ukraine. And they also said that Kim Jong-un could test a nuke at any time at their nuclear test site, okay? And Ukrainian drones destroyed a 750,000-volt substation on the outskirts of Moscow yesterday in the Vladimir region, so another attack on Russia's energy, okay? And we know that the U.S. is planning all of these strikes on Russia's oil, Russia's energy. The U.S. is the one that's planning these strikes, and Ukraine is just pulling the trigger. The U.S. is telling the Ukrainians which targets to hit using geospatial intelligence, signals intelligence, okay, that Ukraine doesn't have access to. And the Director General of the IAEA warned that Iran must seriously improve its cooperation with UN inspectors to prevent an escalation of tensions with the West. We also had 3 solar flares in the last 48 hours. Yesterday there were 2 X-class solar flares, an X1.8 and an X1.1. And then today there was an M-class flare, so there's a good chance of auroras as soon as tomorrow night. So if you live in the northern tier of the US or you live in Canada or Europe, be on the lookout for auroras. Look to the north away from light pollution and you might see something. I'm going to be on the lookout. And earlier this morning we had this US recon plane in the Taiwan Strait doing some very intense reconnaissance. And we have some interesting military exercises going on off the coast of Florida through tomorrow morning. Here we have a screenshot from last night, the flight tracker showing multiple U.S. aerial refuelers, 2 KC-46 Pegasus planes and KC-135s near Key West and the Everglades. And there was also a U.S. Special Operations MC-130J Commando 2, which is an infill and exfil plane for our Tier 1 units. So my guess is they were practicing some kind of aerial refueling with this special operations plane, and this is probably final preparations for the war against Venezuela. And then we also had several P-8 Poseidon sub-hunters off the coast of Florida near Jacksonville, 3 of them, and they were also getting aerially refueled. So potentially there was some kind of a underwater threat here, or they were practicing for Venezuela. And then here's the NOTAM that was issued for Florida. It says here, large military exercise in the vicinity of Boca Chica Airfield nightly between 000 Zulu to 10:00 Zulu from the 4th of November through the morning of the 6th of November. And it says extreme caution. So very, very concerning. It says the area is defined as airspace extending upward from the surface to and including 2,500 feet. So low, like close to the sea. Very interesting. And then here you can see this geomagnetic storm watch, a G3 class geomagnetic storm. For the next couple of days. So it says for November 6th through the 7th. All right, so we could potentially see auroras. They say here the aurora may become visible over many of the northern states and some of the lower Midwest to Oregon. Okay, so I'm going to be on the lookout here. And then here's a loop of the solar flares on the sun. So that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I might be back later on tonight with a live update and live monitoring. Also, we had the big elections last night. It was a huge victory for Democrats. Democrats won in multiple states. And, of course, Mamdani became mayor of New York City. He's considered to be a socialist and Islamic, and he has some pretty radical beliefs. So we'll have to see what he does as mayor. Also in Virginia, a Democrat won for the governor's race there. In New Jersey, a Democrat won the governor's race. And so lots of states flipping Democrat. So we'll have to see what happens over the next couple of months. Will this affect the midterm elections next year? Is this the beginning stages of a backlash against Trump and Republicans, especially because of the government shutdown? I think that's a big reason why the Democrats were able to pick up so many seats, is because the government shut down and canceling the food benefits. I think that kind of helped them out this time around, but we'll have to keep an eye out on that. And until later on, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 P's: prepare, practice, and persevere. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to use my link. It's in the description below this video. It's preparewithNYPrepper.com. So they're selling their 3-month emergency food kit at 30% off, plus they're going to throw in an additional month of food. So that's 4 months of food. And the normal price would be $944, and they're selling it at just under $700 for 4 months of food. And this food has a 25-year shelf life, and it's all packed into rugged, watertight buckets that don't take up a lot of space in your home. And the food is obviously nutritious, which is very important for surviving any kind of SHTF situation. You can also use this food for camping and traveling. But use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get a free month of emergency food with your 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply, all at 30% off, just $700 for 4 months of food. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get the deal, and the link is in the description below this video.